So today I'm going to talk about custom actions in Zapier. I think this is a beta feature that's been out there for a while, and I don't think this feature is getting the credit it really deserves. So what I will do simply is show you the feature and show you one example of building a custom action in Zapier and then doing a simple Zap, then testing it and running it and see how it works. And with this, let's get started. So this is the custom actions page on Zapier. And sometimes it's tricky to get to it. So either you search for Google on Zapier custom actions and you will find the link, or while you're selecting an action, I'll show you later when we start building our Zap, you can see that as an option to navigate to this page. And this is a simple interface and this is how it looks. And before we go into it, let's discuss what is custom actions. So fundamentally, a custom action is basically a custom API call that you can do for one of the already existing applications on Zapier. So for example, let's say YouTube. YouTube has already some triggers and actions installed in the application on Zapier. YouTube has much more capabilities to offer. So you might have been already using one of them through API call or a webhook kind of application on Zapier. But every time you build your Zap, you'd have to recreate this whole thing. And Zapier, since a while, created these custom actions so you can transform that kind of API call you do or custom action, quote unquote, you do into something that will appear to you as one of the options within actions. So you can keep using it as if it's something that was created with the application, but you just create it for yourself. And if you want to create one, you just go to this page, hit create here, and then start filling the fields and creating your custom action. Now I will not go and create one from scratch. I will show you one example here that we'll test later on. When I deal with Shopify, in many cases, I want to either delete a customer, and in many other cases, I want to get my customers. I use that usually to be able to send them emails, but I want to see the most recent customers and their associated information. One of them is, do they accept marketing? So can I send them an email? And the other thing is their email address. And based on both, I can automate the process of sending emails from different sources to my customers based on their consent. Okay, so I kept doing this every time through a webhook HTTP request, and then I decided to make it a custom action. Before I show you one of the custom actions I created, the one thing you have to keep in mind is the superpower of custom actions is not that, oh, it's a template API request that you just save and reuse. It is actually that you are able to use your already covered authentication in Zapier into these API requests. So some of the even OAuth type of authentication requiring API calls can be covered in this because your account, for example, in this case, Shopify for me, is already authenticated. I'm already authenticated with Shopify. I don't need to worry about authentication. I just worry about the other headers or parameters of that API call. Everything else is taken care of by Zapier into their custom actions. This is why it's unique, and I thought maybe a video could either remind you, refresh your knowledge about custom actions, or make you aware of them if you're not. And that will change many things of what you can build in Zapier. So let me go with the delete customer from Shopify as an example. So we'll click on that. And as you can see here, there are two inputs I have. One of them is the API version, and this is something that changes from time to time. So I want to have an easy way just to change it if it does change. And then the customer ID. Once I have those, I have this endpoint. I'll have to cover this part. So this is the private key to my shop, and there's no parameters and there's no headers. And the reason there's no headers because this is already authenticated by Zapier through your account being authenticated with Shopify app. And what this URL or endpoint takes, it's a delete method, and it takes the API version and it takes the customer ID from the inputs. Notice when we go into the input, you'll have to define them one by one. I'll just put edit on this one, for example. The key, do not put these brackets in your key. So it took me trial and error to figure this out, but just put it as it is described in this format. So no spaces, obviously, to be able to use it. Do not use the brackets. And then give it a label and maybe put some text to explain what it is exactly. And later in the URL or the parameters or the headers, whatever you need to get some of those inputs, there you will use those brackets. So just something, maybe it's obvious for you, but just something took me some time to figure out. And the nice thing is already they're giving you a link to the API documentation of Shopify, so you can go there, see if you're doing things right, or maybe you can get ideas of other things you want to create into a custom action. And that is pretty much it. Now, what makes it even better as an offering from Zapier as a feature, you can test it. So what you can do here is you can select your Shopify account and then the version you can put it. So I put in the help basically the standard version at least used today. And here you can put a customer ID and send the test request and you'll get a response if it's successful or not. Now, we're not going to test it here because I want to show you how it works in the Zap, so we can test it there straight. But when you're building it, it is recommended to test here just to make sure it's working, so you don't just keep jumping back and forth between this page and the actual Zap you are building. So let me go to this blank Zap I've created. So I put a schedule. Let's have it maybe every day. Let's say, just for the sake of the example, continue, choose the time of the day. So let's just select any time. Again, this is just an example. Test trigger, it should work. So we have a record selected. We can say continue with the selected record. Now we want to take next step, which will be Shopify. So here we take Shopify and then we select an event. And you can see that my custom actions will appear here. So let's start with the get customers, because to delete a customer, I need a customer ID. I'm not going to delete any customer today. I want just to show you how it looks, how it works. So we'll hit continue. And remember, this action, the get customers, have no parameters, no inputs, nothing. So you will not see anything in action. So here is the authentication part that Zapier takes care of. So let me sign in and we'll go into action. Okay. So I'm signed in now. We hit continue, we go to actions. You can see there's no fields here, nothing, because this doesn't have any parameter. We hit continue and then we can test it. So I'll cover this part just to keep the privacy of my customers. But if you scroll down, I have all the information about my customers, their names, emails, and everything. Okay, good. Let's just show you the custom action for deleting a customer just to see how the action will look. So I'll add again one more step in Shopify. For the event here, we'll go to our custom actions. We'll have delete a customer, continue. We already are authenticated. We continue. And here's the action. So to put the version of the API that I'm dealing with, which is something very obvious when you go into the API documentation. This is 2401. So it's the most recent one. And then the customer ID, I can basically come here and select any customer ID here. And if I run it, the customer will be deleted. And this is something now I can use organically in all my automation when it comes to Shopify. I don't need to recreate it. I just put the necessary input. It can flow through from previous steps to get that input into this step, into my custom action, and then perform that action and do even further steps after that. So I think it's a super powerful feature. I might try to do more with it to show you more use cases, like getting a transcript for a YouTube video. And with this, I hope you've seen value in this episode. You've enjoyed it. I think with this knowledge and your awareness about custom actions, just be creative. There's so many things that are not on the apps that are already available on Zapier. You'll be shocked how many things are not available. So you might get interested by a certain tool that you like and go to their API documentation and see what more they can offer. And I promise you, you'll be doing much more powerful things in your automations on Zapier with this probably much easier than before. And with this, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, again, leave a comment in the comment section, and thank you and goodbye.